When local banker Brian Heisdu organized the Business Leadership Summit, his concept was to do something positive, exciting, and esteem-building for San Joaquin County. Brian created a consortium to sponsor the speakers conference. One by one, he approached other businesses with his proposal. They quickly embraced the concept, committed startup resources, and formed a not-for-profit educational association. The financial commitment was important, but the buy-in was even more complete because the summit founders became involved in the actual production of the event. Founders volunteered themselves or key employees as working committee chairs, volunteer crew team leaders, or sponsor recruiters. The founders' mission was to create and sustain an annual speakers conference of superior quality that permanently enhances the image of Stockton and San Joaquin County.
It's awesome. From the speakers with their great information to the timely information that they deliver, to the audience's camaraderie. But most of all, for me personally, has been the inspiration I get from the entire day. It's like a shot of adrenaline, a shot of positive mental attitude, kind of fires you up to light the world on fire for a while.
I think there's always a sense of pride when you can talk about cultural things that are going on in your community. And when you can say Margaret Thatcher was here and visited and I had dinner with her, and there's a lot of sense of pride in that.
The original founder businesses promptly expanded the summit base by recruiting long-term sponsors with in-kind services. More than 300 community volunteers support and implement summit activities year-round and on Summit Day. A local professional provides stage and production direction. The Stockton Symphony's music director conducts a brass ensemble in the opening fanfare. And local musicians perform throughout the day. Local caterer Angelina's serves up a gourmet lunch each year. Founders host the summit sponsors and benefactors at an elegant gala dinner each year. Speakers are welcomed into the community and treated as honored guests. They tell us that the summit's attention to their individual needs is unique. Less than a year after Brian began to organize the event, the first summit was launched on October 8, 1994, on the campus of Delta College, with Sam Donaldson and other speakers. Donaldson's humorous observations 10 years ago are fresh today.
The best way to get elected this year, clearly, is to A, have no experience. If you have a little experience in government, hide it. Pretend you're government? What's that? I'm just a simple tomato farmer.
Herb Cohen, another first summit speaker, taught summiteers.
Negotiating tends to be the game of life. A game is where you care, really care, but not that much.
Vicki Hitzkes, Harvey McKay, and Steve Kelly also educated and entertained us that first year.
For example, have you ever noticed that the screaming baby is exactly the same size as the overhead compartments? Anybody know?
In 1995, Moses incarnate as Charlton Heston.
Inside the figure of a giant.
Columnist Walter Williams and futurist Daniel Burris spoke. Roy Firestone entertained the group, and then Britain's former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher spoke to a sold-out auditorium.
You cannot negotiate with an aggressor. You cannot negotiate with someone who comes into your house and burgles or who performs violence on any of your family or on any of your business. The whole thing has to be defeated. Never appease an aggressor. Just defeat him. And
remember Mimi Donaldson in 1996 telling us how men are from Mars, women from Venus? Dennis Waitley, Herman Cain, and Rich Little also spoke that year.
Good heavens! Aren't you Cary Grant?
Somebody get a rope.
Rich comes over twice a month to get his batteries recharged. I want to make this perfectly clear.
Well,
Now, before I start speaking, I would like to say something. Listen, where the hell is everybody? Can't see a damn thing.
Then you could have heard a pin drop in the auditorium when statesman Colin Powell walked onto the stage.
Self-respect. It makes no difference that you were a black kid living in the United States where you might be considered a second-class citizen, and there are places in this country you would not be welcome. Don't let that become your burden. Let that be somebody else's burden. Believe in the redemptive power of American society. The things will get better, and you work hard and prepare yourself and educate yourself for when things do get better.
In 1997, America's most admired woman and presidential mom, Barbara Bush, came to Stockton.
You know, we Bushes sort of needed a build-up, just like this, because we're all going through sort of an identity crisis. Take George, for example. You do remember George Bush, don't you?
Les Brown, Harry S. Dent Jr., and the world's premier organizer, Peter Ueberroth, also spoke. And then, remember world-renowned economist from Washington, D.C., Dr. Walter Payne.
Wondering just what relevance there is in someone such as myself being brought here from Washington to explain to you how we, within the federal government, know handle, you know, the terms to make it budget and what we say to the
In 1998, Steve Forbes kicked off the day.
It is true, I have three brothers who are also in the family business, and we did come to the attention of top management at a fairly young age.
Followed by neurosurgeon and motivational speaker Dr. Benjamin Carson and economist Stuart Varney.
Huge threat looming over this economy.
The Capitol steps entertained.
Humongous scandal. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
And then, winner of the 1994 Nobel Peace Prize, engineer of the legendary Entebbe raid against terrorists, Living History presented itself with Shimon Peres, who greeted us.
You know, in the long nights and evenings when we were negotiating, once Arafat told me, he says, democracy, my God, who has invented it? It is so tiring. It's true, I mean, it's tiring.
Herb Cohen came back in 1999 with his childhood buddy Larry King, along with Leslie Stahl of 60 Minutes, Richard Tierlink of Harley Davidson, and Ron Lucas with Scorch.
Easy Being Green, celebrating he was different, he wasn't whining. I could sing it as a rap. Rap? Yeah. Does this look like a rap audience to you? They can adjust. I don't think so. Think about where we are. Oh, that's right. We were in Stockton, gateway to Lodi. Okay, come on. Ein Ross to Rose Lothchild, Scorch.
Art Berg left an indelible impression on summit goers in 1999.
Glasses to remove them. Those who had pens or pencils in their pockets to take them out. Now there's an interesting observation. We're getting ready to crash our planes. These were about me poking myself with my pencil.
We learned from him and we laughed at his stories of coping with paralysis. And we mourned his death 2 years later. Entering the millennium, General H. Norman Schwarzkopf stormed onto our stage in 2000 to hone our leadership skills.
Rule 13, when placed in command, take charge, do something. Remember what I said about great leaders, you know, are respected? Well, why are they respected? Because they recognize a problem and then they do something about it. You know, by the way, they take responsibility.
Catherine Cryer of Court TV graced our stage that day, along with Mitch Albom, author of Tuesdays with Morrie.
Ourselves up for all the things we're not.
Former Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney.
And just as I arrived, a woman charged right in front of me. And she said, I have to have that cart right now. He said, you cannot have that cart. She said, why not? He said, this cart is reserved for the former dictator from Canada.
And satirist Will Durst.
Getting called dysfunctional by Jesse Ventura.
It's like having your drug intervention hosted by Robert Downey Jr.
Vice President Ron Addington took over as president in 2001. Attendees at that year's summit still talk about the astronaut Jerry Leininger, who mesmerized us with his story of fire on a space shuttle.
When I looked at that flame and I thought about my boy and I said, we're going to get that fire out, going to see my boy again. It was something else inside every human being, you know, inside everybody here, that allows us all to rise to the occasion, overcome any obstacle. When you have something you have a passion for, no stopping a human being. I'm convinced of it.
The Olivier of the Latino world, Edward James Olmos, reminded us there is only one human race.
Oh, hello.
Dr. Peter Salgo gave us an emergency room physician's perspective on 9/11, and the passing zone taught us about teamwork.
Thank you.
James A. Baker III gave us valuable insights into world events.
The war against terrorism is one that the United States cannot be asked to fight alone, should not be asked to fight alone. What happened in New York and Washington on September the 11th could just as easily happen in Paris or in Moscow or in Cairo or in Tokyo.
After John Walsh, producer of America's Most Wanted, kicked off the slate of speakers last year, we marveled at the tales of Frank Abagnale, the subject of Catch Me If You Can. Bernard Goldberg reviewed his book, Bias, and we laughed with Jerry Jewell as she changed our attitudes about people with differences. Lastly, who could ever forget the British media frenzy accompanying the visit of the Right Honorable John Major, former Prime Minister of Great Britain. Mr. Major graciously ignored the hubbub to deliver inspirations and insights.
And yet there's real substance in our relationship. We have a common political outlook. Our economic interests so often are intertwined. For example, Great Britain is by far the largest investor in the United States, far bigger, you may be surprised to know, than Japan, but perhaps less controversial since we don't buy your golf courses or your mountains.
We have laughed with our speakers.
You're not going to see Edward James Olmos and James Baker do this. No.
And responding to the applause, he looked up, he said, obviously you know this man, let's bring him out here. Here he is, Les Brown. The applause went up, I ran out there, and the applause stopped. Because they were looking for Les Brown and his band of renown. I just walked around for a moment and let it sink in, and then I said, surprise!
Learned from our speakers and been inspired by our speakers.
Hollywood will make a glamorous movie, but I assure you that I've done nothing greater, nothing more rewarding, nothing that's brought me more peace, more joy in my life than simply being a good husband, a good father.
But that's really what America is about. It's about people coming together to make a difference. And because of you, this community is doing that. God bless you and thank you very much.
Today, we have shared a decade of Summit memories with you. We are proud to be a part of the educational and cultural fabric of this community. The Summit is successful because of you, our sponsors, our benefactors, our audience. You are the best of the Summit.